Throughout history, cultures have developed unique ways to honor the dead, each reflecting their beliefs, values, and connection to the afterlife. Let's explore some of these remarkable burial traditions. 1. Ancient Egypt, pyramids and mummification. Ancient Egypt is renowned for its elaborate burial practices, especially for pharaohs and high-ranking individuals. The Egyptians believed in an afterlife where the deceased would need their physical body and worldly possessions. This led to the practice of mummification, where the body was preserved through a meticulous process involving the removal of internal organs, dehydration with natron salt, and wrapping in linen. Pyramids, such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, served as monumental tombs for pharaohs. These structures were filled with treasures, food, and items intended to accompany the deceased in the afterlife. The walls of the tombs were often adorned with hieroglyphs depicting scenes from the deceased's life and prayers for their journey to the afterlife. 2. Tibetan sky burial. In Tibet, where the rocky terrain makes traditional burials difficult, the practice of sky burial, or jada, is common. This ritual involves leaving the body on a mountaintop to be consumed by vultures. Tibetan Buddhists believe that the body is an empty vessel after death and that feeding it to birds is an act of compassion, returning the body to nature and helping sustain other life forms. The ritual is deeply spiritual and is performed by a trained professional called a rogyapa. Family members often participate in prayer and meditation during the ceremony, aiding the deceased's soul in its journey to the next life. 3. The Zoroastrian Tower of Silence. Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, has a unique burial practice known as the Tower of Silence, or Dakma. Zoroastrians believe that dead bodies are impure and can contaminate the elements of earth, water, and fire. To avoid this, they place the bodies on raised structures where they are exposed to the sun and scavenging birds. The bones are left to decompose naturally and are later collected and placed in a central pit within the tower. This practice reflects the Zoroastrian emphasis on purity and the preservation of the natural elements. 4. New Orleans Jazz Funerals. In New Orleans, funerals are a vibrant celebration of life, blending African, French, and American traditions. The jazz funeral begins with a solemn procession to the cemetery, led by a brass band playing mournful dirges. After the burial, the mood shifts to one of celebration, with the band playing lively jazz music as the procession returns. This tradition symbolizes the release of the soul from the body and its journey to the afterlife, transforming grief into a joyous affirmation of life. The dancing and music are believed to help guide the spirit of the deceased and provide comfort to the bereaved. 5. The Ghanaian Fantasy Coffins. In Ghana, particularly among the Ga people, funerals are elaborate affairs, and the deceased are often buried in custom-made coffins that reflect their personality, profession, or status. These fantasy coffins can take the shape of anything from animals and cars to everyday objects like shoes or mobile phones. The coffins are meticulously crafted and serve as a tribute to the deceased's life. This practice underscores the importance of celebrating individuality and the belief that death is a transition to another form of existence. 6. The Day of the Dead in Mexico. The Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, is a Mexican holiday that honors deceased loved ones. Celebrated on November 1st and 2nd, families build altars, or ofrendas, adorned with photos, candles, marigolds, and the favorite foods and drinks of the deceased. The belief is that the souls of the dead return to visit their living relatives during this time. Graves are cleaned and decorated, and families often hold picnics in cemeteries, sharing stories and memories. The vibrant celebration includes parades, music, and dancing, emphasizing that death is a natural part of life and a time to remember and honor those who have passed. 7. The Torajan Funeral Rites in Indonesia. In the Toraja region of Indonesia, funerals are grand events that can last several days and involve the entire community. The deceased are often kept in the family home for months or even years before the funeral, treated as though they are merely ill. This period allows families to save money for the elaborate ceremony, which includes animal sacrifices, feasts, and traditional dances. After the funeral, the deceased are buried in rock-cut tombs or hanging coffins placed on cliffs. These tombs are often elaborately decorated, and wooden effigies called tau tau are placed nearby to represent the deceased. The Torajans believe that the soul of the deceased remains in the village until the funeral rites are completed and then embarks on the journey to the afterlife. 8. The South Korean Burial Beads. In South Korea, due to limited space and the high cost of traditional burials, a unique practice has emerged, transforming cremated remains into colorful beads. These burial beads are made from the ashes of the deceased and are kept by the family in decorative containers or displayed in their homes. This practice not only addresses practical concerns but also offers a visually beautiful way to remember loved ones. The beads serve as a tangible connection to the deceased, blending modern technology with traditional remembrance. 9. The Malagasy Famadihana. In Madagascar, the Malagasy people practice a unique funerary tradition known as Famadihana, or the turning of the bones. Every 5 to 7 years, families exhume the bodies of their ancestors, rewrap them in fresh cloth, and celebrate with music, dancing, and feasting. The bones are then returned to the family tomb. Famadihana is seen as a joyful occasion that reinforces family bonds and honors the ancestors. It reflects the belief that the dead play an active role in the lives of the living and that maintaining a close relationship with them is essential for the well-being of the family. 10. The Maasai burial practices. The Maasai people of East Africa have distinct burial practices that differ from many other cultures. Traditionally, the Maasai did not bury their dead, believing that only chiefs deserved this honor. Instead, the bodies were left in the wilderness to be consumed by scavengers, returning to nature. In more recent times, as burial practices have evolved, the Maasai have begun to bury their dead in simple graves, but the emphasis remains on the natural return of the body to the earth. This practice highlights the Maasai's deep connection to the land and their respect for the natural cycle of life and death. 11. The funeral pyres of Varanasi, India. In Hinduism, cremation is a common practice, symbolizing the release of the soul from the physical body. One of the most sacred places for this ritual is the city of Varanasi, located on the banks of the Ganges River. Here, funeral pyres burn continuously along the ghats, with families bringing their deceased loved ones to be cremated. The ashes are then scattered in the Ganges, which is believed to purify the soul and help it achieve moksha, or liberation from the cycle of rebirth. The sight of these burning pyres and the constant flow of mourners highlights the deep spiritual significance of death in Hindu culture. 12. The Ainu bear burial rituals in Japan. The Ainu people, indigenous to parts of Japan and Russia, have a unique ritual known as Ayamanti, or the bear ceremony. The Ainu revere bears as gods in animal form. When a bear cub is captured, it is raised by the community and treated with great respect. Upon reaching maturity, the bear is ritually killed and its spirit is sent back to the gods. The bear's remains are then buried with honor. This practice reflects the Ainu's deep respect for nature and their belief in the spiritual interconnectedness of all living beings. The green burials of the United States. In recent years, green burials have gained popularity in the United States as an environmentally friendly alternative to traditional burial practices. Green burials involve burying the body in a biodegradable coffin or shroud without the use of embalming fluids or concrete vaults. The goal is to allow the body to decompose naturally and return to the earth, reducing the environmental impact. Green burial sites often resemble natural landscapes, such as meadows or forests, providing a serene and eco-friendly final resting place. 14. The Aboriginal burial trees of Australia. Some Indigenous Australian communities, particularly in Queensland and New South Wales, practice tree burials. This involves placing the deceased's body in a tree or on a raised platform, allowing it to decompose naturally while being protected from scavengers. After a period of time, the bones are collected and either buried or placed in caves. This practice reflects the Aboriginal connection to the land and the belief that the spirit of the deceased returns to the ancestral realm, becoming one with nature. 15. The crypts of the Capuchin monks in Italy. The Capuchin crypts in Rome offer a unique and somewhat eerie example of burial practices. The crypts contain the skeletal remains of approximately 3,700 Capuchin friars, arranged in intricate displays along the walls and ceilings. The bones are used to create decorative motifs and religious symbols, serving as a memento mori, a reminder of the inevitability of death. This practice emphasizes the Catholic belief in the transient nature of earthly life and the importance of preparing for the afterlife. These diverse burial traditions around the world reflect a rich tapestry of human culture and the various ways societies understand and honor death. From grand ceremonies to intimate family practices, each tradition provides a meaningful way to remember and celebrate the lives of those who have passed. Thanks for joining us for 60 Seconds of History. Stay tuned for more quick dives into the past,